Welcome to part 2 of our New Wave episode. Part 1, The Cars, was released last week, and this week we're talking about French band Indochine, who are massive in French-speaking countries and a few other places, but not really very well known at all in the English-speaking world. They're a fantastic band, been going for ages, and I'm really passionate about them. I'm really happy to introduce them to our listeners. I think more than any other episode, I would really highly recommend you to go and check out the playlist for this episode, and I hope you become a fan too. Also to say that I think I refer to the French band Taxi Girl as Taxi throughout, which is not great, but there is a Portuguese new wave band called Taxi as well, so I think you should just go and check out all these European new wave bands if that sounds like your kind of thing. I'll be back at the end. See you.
Underrated.
Okie dokes. So, as my underrated pick, I have picked the most successful French band in history. It's undeniable. It's Indochine. However, I have picked them because they're really, really not well known outside of French-speaking countries. So, yeah, if you're in a French-speaking country and you've been alive in the last 30 odd years, for sure you will have heard of Indochine. And I heard of them when I just moved to Luxembourg. I think I've mentioned this before, but I saw them at the same music festival that I saw Muse for the first time in 2002, Steelworks. And yeah, me and my mum and a few of the other people who were there fell in love immediately, especially with the very catchy song Trois Nuits par Semaine, which I didn't include. But yeah, it was just, a band that you saw live and you immediately like, oh, they've got some good hooks. And the following year, after the release of their massive album Paradise, which we'll talk about as well, me, my mum, my dad went to see them in Switzerland, as one does, and had a lovely time. And of course, I asked Paolo to give his comments, and he said that Indochine were, united the whole family with our very diverse music tastes, and were also a crucial barrier in breaking down my hatred of being forced to learn French, which is absolutely true. So I associate Indochine with mostly, and I'm the biggest fan of them around this time, 2002, when Paradise came out. And in the same year, we bought the Birthday album, which is their greatest hits up until 1991. And that's why there are a lot of songs kind of, pre-1991 and around the mid-noughties. I think they've got an incredibly solid back catalogue. I would put them in the same leagues as my other great back catalogue bands, Depeche Mode, Dandy Warhols, Pet Shop Boys. And I sent Fran the only English language interview that I could find, which is an interview with the Lancashire Times in 2020. And Nicolas Sirkis, the lead singer, says that he wants Indochine to be classified with, quote, The Cure, Depeche Mode, and U2, the other survivors of the 80s, which I think is very apt. And Fran, this was the most difficult playlist I've ever had to make, because obviously we have 13 albums, a whole era of music, and I had to find a balance between representing all the different sounds, putting the songs that I liked, and putting songs that I thought that you would like. I don't know if anyone in the band is gay. I could very easily have just picked you 10 songs with gay and trans themes, and it would have been fine. And yeah, they clearly have this fascination with Asia, because Indochine is French Indochina in English. So it was the grouping of French colonial territories in Southeast Asia, which had Cambodia, Laos, and the Chinese territory of Guangchuan, and some Vietnamese regions as well. So, what are they doing by calling themselves after this? It's kind of difficult to tell actually with them of like, oh, are you interested in this area? Is there a bit of a colonial critique? Because one of their earlier albums is called Le Péril Jaune, which means yellow peril, right? Like the derogatory term for kind of Asian people. So I'm like, are they reclaiming that? Clearly they have an admiration for the music and the sound, and you hope that's it. Fingers crossed, Nicola.
I mean, previously we discussed a band called Japan, so
this is what keeps happening. So I really, what I hope is that you at least like some of the songs on this playlist, and then it makes you go and explore, optimistically, an album or two. So my first pick is called Troisième Sexe, Third Sex. I picked the Birthday album version, but it's from the album 3 from 1985. And I don't know if you saw this, but they did a version of this with Christine and the Queens recently. Yeah. And I think 3 is a good album to start with, because there's a few other catchy songs. This song is basically about, not adhering to gender norms. Mm-hmm. Literally, the chorus is in English: we take each other's hands, a masculine girl, a feminine boy. He talks about we're in the streets, charming outfits, made up like my fiance. And he said the record label didn't want them to put this out because, quote, they would lose their female fans. But not only did they say that, they said it was, and I quote, a song for fags. But they were like, no, we're gonna do it. We don't give a shit. I picked this, not just for those themes. I think it's quite a catchy song on first listen, but I find hidden depths each time. There's the great bass. I like the drums clapping, the harmonies, the subtle sax motif. And one thing that I truly didn't realize until picking for this playlist, but I feel with almost all of the songs that I've picked, the chorus doesn't come in when you expect it to. And on most of their songs, it is not verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. The on se prend la main comes in randomly. There's other things going on. And I really, really like that because it wrong foots you, to use a word that I like to use.
So this is 1985, yeah?
Yes.
So to me, instantly, the bass line is The Forest by The Cure.
Ah.
Dun, dun,
I really like A Forest.
Dun, dun.
I hadn't made that connection.
It grows. It's got a Euro new wave sound. Like, I don't want to say Falco because it's a bit cliche, but it does. And it has a similar sound. Like that, there's a different European new wave sound. Like we have the American new wave sound earlier. I think Europe had a very different sound. So, for example, I was thinking about this earlier. Actually, like we have the word new wave, but I think its constant's quite different. I think in America the new wave is kind of different to the UK and Europe. Like I think we're more theatrical in our approach. We had more makeup, more gender roles changing over, a little bit more experimental. I think some of the new wave bands in America are basically a normal band with a keyboard.
With some sense, yeah.
Yeah, that was new wave. But I think in Europe we were challenging ourselves a little bit more. I think maybe. So I think this has the European new wave sound. And I put down, is it about a third sex?
Well, so the album's called 3, and I think it features a lot. So there's another song called 3 nuits par semaine, 3 days a week. There's I think 9 songs, which is divided by 3. And I think it's early mainstream non-binary discourse of like, why are we put into these categories of male and female? What is male and female? You can be a feminine man, feminine boy. Let's all kind of be free. And I know that and we're going to come to this as well later, but they've been more like proactive on trans rights recently as well. So I think it's just in their wheelhouse of pushing the gender roles. Did you look up the lyrics to Le Grand Secret with Melissa After-Mauer?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, all right. That's gender role reversal for sure.
I didn't see a video for this song. I saw the video of Christine and the Queen.
There is a video of this song.
So Christine and the Queen, he does look like he's gone down the Bon Jovi route.
He's got some great haircuts over the years.
But I wonder, back in those days, like in the video, is he androgynous? Does he wear makeup?
Fran, go to my Facebook profile. I have changed it to the picture of him in this music video. He's got curly hair on top, mullet at the bottom. He's wearing lipstick and eyeshadow. He
was skating with like gender looks and
100%.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. So it's a catchy number and a good introduction to the band. Yeah, and the French vocals didn't put me off. This didn't throw me.
So I should have said this up top. I think Indochine are the best band for you to learn French with because his enunciation is so clear. Like even as something like French is my third language. I understand almost everything he's saying. Even if I don't understand the words, he is enunciating so clearly. And that is very pleasant to a non-French ear. And he has a very smooth voice, or like a smooth delivery that's very pleasant.
I can get on board with this. It's not an Edith Piaf like, and that's what a cliche version of French we think. Vocally, it's pleasant on my ears.
But what do you think of his voice? Because I think liking his voice is a lot of liking Indochine.
He does change, obviously. He does have that 80s delivery a little bit more in this era, and I've noticed that over the decades he does tone it down somewhat. He has somewhat of a yodel in some places.
I'm looking forward to hearing where he has a yodel. There's this song and there's another song where I'm like, I think knowing French might be key to liking it a bit more, because I really like the on se prend la main, un garçon féminin. Like there's something very pleasing to the ear. So the next one I picked in part because it's one of my favorite songs, in part because I think it's obviously you can see what it's about from the title. It's Des fleurs pour Salinger, That's how he pronounces it. Flowers for Salinger. JD, I don't even know how you say it in English now. JD Salinger, the author.
Yes,
From,
yeah.
He says Salinger though, doesn't he? Which is quite funny. He's got some pronunciations. I mean, one I picked. You will see which song I picked for you, and there is some great pronunciation going on there. So we're on Le Baiser from 1990, and so the band are now a trio because they're saxophonist slash. Is it keyboard? No, it was saxophonist slash saxophonist and keyboardist. Yeah, Dimitri has left.
Do we know why he left?
I don't know why he left. So obviously Stefan Sirkis, Nicolas Sirkis's twin brother, passed away in 99. And then that's why, someone else came on. But I mean, I guess musical differences.
I remember on Wikipedia it says that he is a very popular member of the band and people were shocked to see him.
Oh, right. Okay. I mean, he's quite charismatic. Like, you have to go and see the Troisième Sexe video where he's like saxophoning away, looking very happy.
Because I'm right to say that there's no one else from the original lineup apart from Nicholas.
No, there isn't. Yeah, because the bassist is called Mr. Marco, and he's been
loads of
Misters,
isn't there, in the band? Have you seen that?
Their list of members is insane. Like they've been
Mr. Shoe. Was I saying Mr. Shoe?
I don't know if I saw Mr. Shoe, but like I was like, I prepared for this, and I was kind of like, right, okay, I know of the few of the key players, but at the end, I'm going to go and look at the Wikipedia page to see the members, and it literally is like, the meme equivalent of Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the thread, or the Brazilian woman looking confused by the maths. Like, it's very graphical.
Yeah, we've got like Monsieur Tox, Monsieur Yan, and we've got Mr. Shoes.
I don't know what did Mr. Shoes do?
Mr. Shoes, real name Francois Soulier, drums 2002-2015.
Oh, there we go. See, this is like, I am a huge Indochine fan, but I think because I got into them when I was into pop, I guess, or just kind of coming into rock as a teenager, like they feel like pop culture landscape to me. They're a band that I know about through exposure rather than having to read up on them, because they're really famous. So I actually really didn't know very much about Mr. Shoes and Co. But I did find it interesting, given that they seemingly such a kind of feminist band, whatever, they're not a single woman. They've collaborated with a lot of women and stuff, but there's never been a single woman. So yeah, what does that say? Anyway, going back to Salinger, so I really like the song. It has this, I don't know what to call it, this deep intake of breath that starts the song. It's like, whoo, and then it's suddenly, you just get into the song immediately. There's some TikToking synths and drums where you're like, where is this going to? And then he starts singing, and then suddenly there's these, I'm gonna very broadly call it Asian strings, the motif that come in, and then suddenly the drums come in, they're guiding, there's everything comes in unexpectedly, and every single element of the song builds it up. I think also the charming way that he says Salinger definitely gets me. It's one of those songs that I feel is quite short and could be longer, and I listen to it on repeat, but I am intrigued to hear what you thought of it.
So I instantly noticed the change in sound. So I quite enjoyed the guitar sound in the 80s, and we've moved on to acoustic guitars, haven't we? And like a pitch shifting Eastern synth melody.
That's a much more eloquent way of putting it than Asian strings.
It's definitely more pop mainstream, I think. It's got some strange special effects during the verse, like some odd noises happening. Yeah, and like a spidery percussion. I don't know how it's about J.D. Salinger at all. Is it?
It is. It is about.
But why?
The chorus. I think because he really got into. I read like J.D. Salinger, Man Ray, and someone else, and he just wanted to have a little bit of a sing about it, because the chorus is flowers for J.D. Salinger, who is living in a monastery. That's it. Like that is the whole chorus.
But yeah, I didn't like this as much as the previous song, unfortunately. So when did the guitar player left? Because I noticed that in the 80s, the guitar player wrote most songs with him. So
Dominique Nicolas
yes
was until Wax, so that was the mid-90s.
Okay, because his brother doesn't write songs, does he, with him?
He does write songs with him after Dominique Nicolas leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, so good to have the timeline. I will just end with some stats. So I think with this album, I think you identified the strings and stuff much better, because it says that they used instruments that were not very well known, like Iranian music instruments called Santur and Comanche. So that might be what makes the sounds. And there's another song on this album called Punishment Park, and I only found out yesterday that it's Juliette Binoche doing the backing vocals. on that. So for film fact fans, you might want to check that out.
Punishment Park.
Punishment Park.
Sounds delightful.
Well, speaking of sounding delightful, now I only picked one song from probably their biggest album, Paradise, from 2002, Le Grand Secret. It was an absolute smash. So 2002, when I moved to Luxembourg, the songs from this album, and I think it was one of those albums that had like 6 singles or something, they were everywhere. The music videos were everywhere, especially J'ai demandé à la lune, which I almost sent that to you for you to watch it separately, because it is their second biggest song after another one that's on this list.
Is it up tempo? Is it?
No, it's a ballad.
Because this is also slow.
This is slow.
First thing I thought of this is quite a slow song, because I read that they became massive in this era, and I'm surprised that they got quite a slow.
But this
sound.
wasn't well. Actually, J'ai demandé à la lune is a ballad, but it wasn't written by them. It was written by a guy called Michael. I can't remember his surname, from the French band Mickey 3D, which are a very underrated, very good French rock band that I would recommend. So I didn't include it in part because they didn't write it, and in part because I was like, it is their biggest song, and I want to talk to you about I want to talk to you about the themes of this song.
So what do you think made them massive in this era? Was it a new label?
I think what made them massive in this era, so I think J'ai demandé à la lune is a very sweet and catchy song with a very sweet music video where Nicolas Sirkis is like walking on a treadmill, and there's some kind of nice animated things in the background, and then a child sings in as a back. They have children a lot in their music videos and stuff, and in the imagery, and it's like a very beautiful song. But their other singles are totally like this album has 15 songs. They all sound very, very different to each other. Like I think perhaps why they were big, it's because they're all kind of broadly catchy songs. I mean, this one is, I've included the album version. There is a single version of this, which is a little bit shorter. But I think it's because J'ai demandé à la lune was such a smash, and then like every song that came afterwards, you're like, oh, okay, like they're doing something different. And I think music videos were a big part of why they were so big, because they were everywhere, and they're all very like I remember all the music videos from that.
But this music video is terrible.
Oh yeah, no. So we're gonna get into it, right? So I wanted to say, like, were you expecting this gear change? Like, I'm guessing you were surprised when this song was played,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, obviously I know who Mr. Authors, but I mean, I was not expecting this, because I guess this is a brand new band, isn't it? He's the only surviving member. Yeah.
So it is kind of a brand new band, because Ali Desat has come on now, and he's like the kind of main composer with Nicolas Sirkis from Here Point On, but he produced Dans ta Ria, which is the album before. So yes, it is a new band, but it's not a totally new collaboration, because he produced the album, which was the last album with Stefan Sirkis on it. So actually, in a way, it's kind of a very natural evolution.
And I'm right in saying this is their first big album for 10 years.
Yes, like their 90s albums are not do not sell very well at all. Again, I didn't look at the figures exactly, but I would argue that this album was bigger than any of their stuff in the 80s. Like, they were big in the 80s, but this kind of transcended it. Like, they became proper mainstream with this album.
Okay.
But I think I picked this song. Fran, this song is basically about pegging, and that's why I picked it.
I'll put it down. It's just about pegging, because about
this is a
Melissa
song
wanting to be a boy, doing boy things.
This is a song about pegging that was on the radio and mainstream, which I think it just absolutely blows my mind. I don't think that would happen in the UK. We
have songs about taking ecstasy and stuff, and Relax is about, holding.
True. But I guess in a similar way to Relax, there's no bad words, right? But I just think it's absolutely incredible that a fucking song about pegging just was a massive hit. And I think the music video is terrible.
Yeah, it's like a David Brent piss take.
And I mean, this song is literally about like a woman saying, I want to be your king. A man saying like, the way I want to have sex with you was like a girl defending herself. And yet those power dynamics are not in the video at all. If anything, he's the dominant one, because he like has his hand on her back, and she's like pushing her hand away at one point in this way that's a bit like, so I'm like, was that because they were like, how the hell did we get away with a song about pegging?
Yeah, basically like a smoke screen, isn't it? Really? Smoke screen.
But okay, I picked this because it's a song about pegging, but it not only because it's a song about pegging. I will say that I would just say that I think Paradise is my favorite album of theirs. and I think it's basically perfect. And this is not the kind of music that I like. This is very slow, very gentle piano, and it works. Like I think Indochine are great at doing that. And I think the last song on this playlist, we will talk about building with with different instruments as well. But the way that the piano works with their voices, they've both got great voices. The way they harmonize is beautiful. The way that the more aggressive kind of guitars come in, dun, 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 it's perfect. It doesn't outstay its welcome at all. So I'm really curious to see what you think about this, because I'm like, did you listen to it and then look at the lyrics? Did the lyrics change your concept of it? Yeah. What do you think?
So my thoughts on Le Grand Secret, as I say in English.
And Le Grand Secret in it.
So yeah, I did look up the lyrics, and yeah, I did think, hang on, this is a bit pegging.
It is a bit pegging, isn't it?
It's actually quite interesting because there's a band called Kent from Sweden, and I think it sounds a little bit like Kent in production.
Can't come up in a later song.
Yeah, and it's got that industrial sort of sound. It's got the pretty vocals and pretty piano, but the actual production is kind of a bit darker. This is very, very different from the 80s sound previously. And and to me, it doesn't sound commercial. So I was like, why the fuck is this so popular? Because this isn't like a banger. It's not like, Blondie coming back with Maria, which is like a big pop hit. It's quite a slow song. So I was like, oh, maybe they had a couple of like big, fast or poppy singles, but you're saying no, not at all.
I do think perhaps, and I've just thought of this, I think French or French-speaking audiences are more partial to a ballad.
Well, with your vision, that's correct. But
but thinking about, Edith Piaf, Serge Gainsbourg, Jacques Brel, who's Belgian, right? But it's like they have fast songs, but it's like, I think people have patience and time for a slow song that maybe they don't in other countries.
Did you go on YouTube? Because on YouTube there's loads of Peruvians, people. Peruvian, is that correct?
Peruvian,
yeah. Saying, "Oh, please come to Peru." They love it. It's
yeah,
so random, isn't it? How they
it is like, why Peru? Because it's usually come to Brazil, right? And I mean, the reason why that happens is because Brazil is a massive country, but Peru not so much. I don't know why Lima over other cities.
I think like a DJ just championed them, and then suddenly it became big.
That's all you need sometimes, right? Like you need those gatekeepers. But yeah, I also picked this because I thought you must have thought, wow, Barbara likes this, because yeah, it isn't my usual fare.
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
But okay, we've been in the 80s, we've been in the 2000s, but we're going backwards a bit to 1996. I've picked Coma 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 from Wax, which is their 7th album. So this was the first one without Dominique Nicolas, who had been the main composer. But yeah, this was a really in French it says it was a critical and commercial how do you say this in English? Like
Le flop?
Flop, but it's more strong. It's like a failure, like you've lost in battle kind of thing. And it's like, okay, right, Jesus Christ. And only sold 60,000 copies. So when you think about the fact that Paradise a few years later sold 1.2 million in France alone.
But it's mad because like the Greatest Hits came out 2 years earlier, so that's a massive drop, isn't it?
5 years. Birthday album was 5 years earlier, but yeah.
But is that just because like grunge or something became up?
Well, I think it's because in the 80s, Indochine were an 80s band. 80s band with some Asian influences. In the 90s, their sound is kind of all over the place. Like Fleur de Salinger, which is the first one I picked. Like the sound is evolving, but it still sounds pretty 80s. Like you've still got the drum machiney type sounds and synths dominating. So yeah, I chose this one because I think Wax has got some great songs on it, this being one of them. And I guess it's not a million miles away from Fleur de Salinger because it has this kind of repetitive synth string motif. And once again, you don't know what's a verse, what's a chorus, what's going on. And yet there's definitely kind of enough melodic sensibilities to make it catchy, but not too many that it's going to put me off. Like the chorus is, like his vocals are very sweet almost. I think because it then shifts down and then there's all this kind of these bells donging and the strings coming in to kind of wake you up a little bit. It doesn't annoy me. And I'd never looked at the lyrics in English. I'd never really paid attention to them in French, but they're quite poetic, I thought.
So Coma works in both languages.
Yes, indeed. And they have another song from Paradise called Comatine, like literally
Yes,
Comatene. Yeah, I don't know why they're obsessed, but there we go.
So yeah, I guess it's afraid of losing somebody. Is that what it's about? Is it?
Yeah. The moon is black and shameless, and I'm afraid not to see you anymore. Wake me up from this coma of this fight for you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
But yeah, this sounds very much of the era. Like I put down garbage post-grunge guitar sound, like crunchy sort of sound.
Yeah.
With a dash of hip hop hangover in the background.
Wow, I've not seen any of this, but tell me more.
Well, okay. And the top line sounds a little bit like Duran Duran.
You think so?
Yeah, the 90s.
Is that a compliment, or do you think they're ripping them off?
I mean, Simon Le Bon, he's not French, but he should be.
Famously.
But yeah, it's got a similar sort of like delivery. Like, so 90s Duran Duran is an era people forget, but I kind of love it because it was the bands who were like thinking, fuck, what do we do now? And they like,
I'm guessing not too dissimilar to Indochine, right?
Yeah, and yeah, similar, because Duran Duran had a very similar sound to Garbage, and they were like thinking, shit, who are we? It's the 90s now. We need to become reborn, and they were trying new things. A lot didn't work, but when it did, it was brilliant. And I think it's a similar timeline. You know, this is the mid 90s, and they're thinking, shit, we're not 80s anymore. Who are we? And let's try some new sounds, and it's very similar to Duran Duran, I would say.
What specific Duran Duran songs would you recommend people to listen to the Sam Summoner?
Electric Barbarella, Out of My Mind.
I don't like that song though, so tell me another one.
Out of My Mind,
I don't know that one.
Which is on the Saint soundtrack, and Big Bang Generation.
There we go.
And that was a flop time for Duran Duran. They took them till the noughties to rediscover their sound. But yeah, so I can see.
Well, again, maybe in a similar way to Indochine, even though I do it like you. I enjoy the sound. I think there's elements of their 80s sound, but they're evolving, and I think broadly in a positive way.
I don't know about the French. Well, you say French is quite snobby, but I think in definitely UK...
Parisians.
Well, definitely UK, I believe that media very much like, you've had your time in the 80s. You can't come to the 90s. But unfortunately, that seems to be the view for a lot of bands from the 80s. Like, you know, apart from Depeche Mode, a lot of bands who were big in the 80s, like the Tears, Fears, Simple Minds, were suddenly, like, you know, discarded in the 90s. Like, nope, we now only like new bands. And I think that seems to be what UK was doing. I don't know if that's the same in France.
I think I don't know enough about French media to kind of, you know, say it with a lot of authority, but I imagine it's the case because I think whether, you know, media or not, people would have not wanted that sound, right? Okay, obviously it's kind of the media and the radio pushing it, but you know, we're in the mid 90s now as well, so it's like there's been grunge and now we're still figuring out what the hell the mainstream sound is going to be. So no, I don't think there was an appetite, and bands who are big and experiment, it's always a risk because are you going to alienate your other people? And I think, you know, you've talked a lot about how you like bands where it's for outsiders, like Indochine are clear outsiders. Like they're always going to be bands that have the hardcore fans, especially the themes that they talk about, but not everyone is going to come along with them in the same way. But we're not staying in the 90s long, because I'm bringing you back to 82, because once again I tried to not make it chronological and a bit samey. And we're with L'Aventurier from their album of the same name, L'Aventurier, from 82. Sorry, yeah, I kept saying 81, it's 82. This is still their biggest song according to Spotify, so that is partially why I included it. But I loved this. I sang this at karaoke with my friend Stephanie, and we were the only two in our friendship group that knew it, and my god, is it difficult to sing.
In which city were you singing this?
I was in Brussels city, baby. And because, so obviously, yeah, anytime I'm in Brussels and there's kind of karaoke, I'm like, right, let's get the French people that you can't get anywhere else.
Quick question. So I've done karaoke in Milan, and it was fucking weird because we sat down on tables and they passed a microphone to a table. I thought it was weird. There's no stage. This is odd.
I have done that in Belgium also. So
is that a thing?
Yes. So this wasn't. So this was in Boa Karaoke Bar. Shout out to them. Would love some free entry, which is the booth karaoke. But the first ever karaoke night I went to for a very long time was a karaoke night in a bar called Bar du Gaspé in Scarbeck in Brussels, where it is exactly that. It's like it's a bar, you have like a screen where the lyrics are, but then you're just singing in the midst of it.
So there's no like,
which I
performance.
enjoyed. I think it's less pressure.
What's your to-go-to song? Mine's Common People or Can't Get Enough.
My go-to song is All That She Wants by Ace of Base.
Not Duran Duran, that's a shame.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, she wants.
Oh, she. Yeah, I do the female sexual sound. Like, Anyway, bringing it back. So, yeah, it is their biggest song. I think with kind of understandably, it's very of its time, but it's very catchy, and I like each part of the song again because it shifts, and more than any of the other songs, like I think it shifts more than the other songs because there are these bits where it's literally just like for 2 bars it goes do da 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 da, and then it just changes and you're like, okay, again, what's going on? And I really like the way his voice goes up in the chorus, and I wonder whether you hate this, but the whole like et sur la surface avant le frérot de tous les temps, I really enjoyed that. I wonder if you do too.
So can you tell me more about Bob Moran?
Right, so Bob, I never had any fucking clue who the hell this Bob Moran was that he keeps going on about. So I think it is a book that was turned into a comic strip. And
like Indiana Jones, I guess.
Yeah, he's aventurier, is adventurer, right? Like he's a hero, and it's French. Even though I think he discovered this, so they lived in Brussels for a while. So I'm not surprised that you thought they were Belgian. They're big fans of Belgium, and when I saw them at their gig in Switzerland, they were supported by Belgian brand Geronimo, who we talked about in the Best of Belgium podcast episode. So I was like, with Indochine a lot of the time, I'm like, he's talking about parts of Asia that I'm not familiar with, or he's making references that I don't understand. It never bothered me, but it is quite funny because I guess Bob Moran would be quite an English name, but Bob Moran is who he keeps talking about, and yeah, that's all I know.
So the music video seemed to be like black and white photos of like the war.
The music video is like
happening?
The most like 80s, what kind of digital effects do they have access to for that level of budget?
Yeah.
With the war and there's some stuff, like it's very strange.
It's not Thriller. I can tell you that.
Thriller, no, it's not.
So yeah, in Liverpool, they had a very unique new wave sound. We're talking like Echo and the Bunnymen sort of.
Or Teardrop Explodes.
Yeah, and I think it's got a very similar guitar sound to the Liverpool. Yeah, I like the urgent electro toms. It's bouncy. It's got a lovely flavour to it.
Nice.
And in fact, musty.
Yeah.
And it's really, really catchy. I can see why this is a big hit, and it's kind of like frustrating why this wasn't popular in the UK because like we had like foreign language songs back in those days.
Yep.
We had fucking Down, Down, Down by fucking Trio, the Italian outfit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, why is this not in the UK?
I really don't know. I think maybe because you had enough homegrown talent. I suppose, because I don't know how many other, apart from maybe Taxi, I don't know how many other French bands sounded like Indochine in this era. Like my knowledge of French music is a bit spread out, and I think those are the only 2 bands that I really know from this era.
I guess Vanessa doesn't sound like many people in UK. This sounds kind of like a lot of UK bands, so maybe thought, well, we've got this already, but that sort of thing. Yeah,
but I still think there's an originality to it. I think the song structure isn't like a lot of the homegrown talent. Again, they keep splicing in a chorus when you don't expect it.
I did notice that they have played in the UK, but I wonder if that's just like French people living in London.
Yeah,
they played the Shepherd's Bush Empire, didn't they, in like 2015?
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh wow. But I mean, if you haven't, there's a big French community, especially in London.
So they never made it big in Canada or anything like that?
That is a good question. I saw France, Belgium, and Switzerland is where they've made it big. Okay. Probably in Quebec. They would be well known, but And I keep taking you from era to era because now I'm taking you to 2005 to À Séjourne is the album, and the track is called Ladyboy, even though what the hell does that have to do with the song? I couldn't figure it out.
And why English as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, Punishment Park is the name of one of the songs. They do that quite a lot, and I have put in one song where he's singing in English for a little bit at least. And I found it interesting the way that this album was described. So this album, I didn't like it immediately. It took me a while to get into, but it definitely has a a few good songs, and I think the song is fantastic. And Nicolas said that for him, this was like Exile on Main Street for Indochine, and he called it violently romantic, joyously pornographic. So make of that what you will.
He wasn't talking about the cocaine habit of the band back in those days.
Who knows? I have not. I don't know if Indochine were doing Charlie or anything. Yeah, and I mean other songs on this. There's a song called Gangbang on this album,
Lovely stuff.
and there's a song called Un homme dans la bouche, which means a man in the mouth, which for me just conjures up blowjobs. So there we go. They keep bringing it, but that's not. I didn't pick a song for that. I think this is a beautiful song. I really like the wonky piano accompaniment throughout, his vocal line, the way that the child chorus comes in, then everything is stripped away before it's built, and the way it's just the piano, bass, and guitar finishing off the song, it really kind of moves me, this song, I have to say.
Yeah, completely different to anything else I've heard by the band. It's got that weird distorted harpsichord sound throughout, which instantly catches my attention. We discussed Placebo earlier. I think Placebo would do a good version of this, and even the guitar lines sound a little bit Placebo.
Well, this is the album that the Brian Moko song is on.
Okay, well, it makes a lot of sense. It's eerie, but it still works, and yeah, I think out of all the songs, this is one that stood out the most for me, mainly because of that strange harpsichord sound. The video is odd.
Fucking weird, yeah.
You got some rabbits marching along,
and then some
then Asian children,
yeah. Which you're like, again, like how much of this is like representation and how much of this is weird.
But I guess the band are called Indochine, so maybe that's what it is. But yeah, it's strange.
I'm glad you like this, because I feel like, because this is the album that came out after the absolute smash hit Paradise, I wouldn't say it's underrated, but maybe it's a bit overlooked. It's very easy for a band that was so big so quickly to become stale, and they clearly haven't, and they clearly keep pushing the boundaries and experimenting. And yeah, I mean, we're in 2005, and this is not the latest song that I've got on this playlist. That's going to come later. But first, we're going back to the 80s again with a song that I picked because it's called Miss Paramount, from the album Le Péril Jaune, Yellow Peril. And this was the album that got to number 9 in Sweden.
Okay.
And was recorded in Jacob's studio in Farnham.
Strange, because this didn't have any like big hits, did it?
Well, yeah, for Indochine, yes, it did.
Oh, but this isn't a big hit, Miss Paramount.
Well, it is on their greatest hits. I do really like this song. It is a song I listen to on repeat. But I did pick it because it's about the cinema. Miss Paramount is a very emotive and reactive cinema goer who the singer is in love with, despite her physically hurting him when they go and watch scary films at the cinema together. He says Miss Paramount, which makes me laugh. And I'd actually never seen the music video, but it is another fever dream, which I'm sure we'll discuss. But yeah, what did you think of the song?
Instantly, I thought of 6 Sputnik. Shoot it up. But this is 83, so that's before 6 Sputnik. So that's interesting. It's here when he does that yelpy vocal that like.
I thought not. Yeah, I thought
really?
And up to spend more. Yeah. Oh, Miss Paramount. I'm just singing because I don't know the lyrics.
And it's got an interesting like Hank Marvin from the Shadows guitar sound.
Yes, it does.
Unexpected. So yeah,
a lot happening.
6 Sputnik and the Shadows combined, not what you expect. Why not? So yeah, I quite enjoyed it, to be fair, apart from the yelping vocals.
And let's talk about the music video, because there's an awful lot going on.
Yeah, we've got teenagers in the cinema. We've got a projectionist doing some bad acting.
Getting drunk and then hallucinates like a topless. Is it the thing from the Paramount?
Yeah, the statue
credits, right? Yeah. One of the kids is wearing an Abu de Souffle top, which feels very apt in the week, right? That Jean-Luc Godard has died.
According to YouTube, it's a Parisian cinema people go to all the time. Still open.
Oh, the where it's filmed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, I picked this one because I liked it, but I picked this one because I was like, if anything else, we can talk about films. And we're remaining in the 80s, and I've picked another slower song, Tes yeux noirs. I picked the birthday album version again.
What's that in English?
Your Black Eyes.
Your Black Eyes.
Your Black Eyes. Now, this is a song that I feel might be a little bit lost in translation, because I think it's the way he says the words and what they are that make it the viens avec moi. Ne pars pas sans moi. Cette nuit danserai tu ici. So I think Brian is doing some great actions that I wish you could see, everyone. It is a pure love song. If you like the song, we'll get into it. You absolutely have to listen to the live version because they do a live version where it's just piano and voice.
Which era did they do the live version?
Like any actually
Always,
modern
okay.
era is where I've heard it more. So I think they have a live album around the time of Paradise where I think live at Bercy.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely beautiful. Like it's just come with me. What he's saying, what shines on our faces are your black eyes, but then again, this is the Indochine twist. A muscly body, short hair, you look like a boy. I feel your skin even without light. And then the serpents are legendary, which I'm like, okay, you've lost me there. But until then, so it's like, it's about a man loving une femme masculin, like with Troisième Sexe, the first song. So it's an absolutely beautiful, I think, universal love song, but again with these kind of bashing the gender norm themes, and any version is good, and the music video is another insanity that we'll get into. Fran?
So is he married to
He's had lots of... So I had zero idea about his love life because he has had many, many relationships with many, many women and has children with several women, I think.
So he's never been said he's bisexual or anything? Okay.
No, not that I know of. Yeah.
So, I watched the video. The Serge Gainsbourg. Of course, he has a cameo with him smoking a fag, because,
For no... what are you doing here? Why? Why... But this one is bizarre. I really feel like they were somewhere. Serge Gainsbourg turned up and was like, hey, shall we film something in an industrial park and get some children to wave you away at a train station? And the way that Serge Gainsbourg comes into the music video, where, the camera is filming him from below and he is just having a fag as the band sing along next to him. Insane.
And then you got, a really awkward model doing some dancing.
Yeah,
which doesn't work. Around at one point, she falls off the then
the barricades.
What the fuck's happening? Yeah, so I might say this is my favorite song on the playlist.
I love to hear that. Then you absolutely have to go and listen to the live version.
I love the guitar sound. It's very Simple Minds for me.
Yes, it is. You're right.
This might shock some podcast regulars, but I quite like the saxophone sound in this as well, guys.
Oh my God, guys! Are you? Yeah. The bells are ringing.
I would fucking cut off the French whispers at the start. What are they saying at the start?
Oh, well, he's saying "Viens là, viens avec moi." Come with me. I see. I quite enjoyed that.
Not a fan of whispers at all.
But I think in other versions it doesn't have that. So
okay, well, and I will check out the live version if they're saying whispering. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I had no fucking clue what the song's about. The video is fucking terrible.
Yeah, don't honestly, guys, please listen to the song before you go and watch the music video because the music video will ruin it for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of swaying happening with the band. But yeah, it's a great song.
I'm so glad. I think like I said, I think this is a great love song, and I'm not one to be soppy normally as we talk about, but it feels very, I was going to say heartful, but that's not a word.
Hello, this is a promo for a podcast about a playlist.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's called Playlist. Yeah. My name's Mike Lash, former actor, former comedian, former creative, former cool dude. This is
Kay Mitchell, former musician, former art student, current cool dude.
We've created a playlist, a fucking brilliant playlist.
The best playlist ever, to the point where we spoke to each other about how good the playlist is, and that we wanted to be the people at a party who's putting on the music and only putting on a few seconds of the music before changing the song, because everyone loves those guys at a party.
That's us. So each week we have a guest and they have to choose one song to define them as a human person. One song for me, Mike Lash, to sing right after.
And then, because Mike is not the best person in his family, we've incorporated his mum to give her insight into each song, which will maybe help the guest to define themselves as a person.
But really, we probably shouldn't get bogged down in the format of the podcast. It's really heavily edited, so it's not actually that boring. It's quite short, so I really think you'll like it. Kerry's kids are home, so it's probably the end of this promo.
It is. What was it? www.playlistshare.com. And available wherever you get your podcasts.
So is this the best album? 3?
So to be honest, right, because I got into them through the Greatest Hits album, my favorite album of theirs is Paradise, because that's the first one that I heard as an album, whereas everything pre 2002, I went through the birthday album and then kind of had to go sequentially. I think 3 has some of the biggest bangers on it. I think it is a very good place to start. I think 3 is good for the 80s sound. Paradise is good for the naughty sound. For the 90s sound, I don't know if I'd necessarily say Wax would be the same place. I would say probably more the album where Fleur pour Salinger comes from, which I have temporarily forgotten which one that is. The Busy. Yeah, I think that would be a better one. And I think this is something that you can keep in because we've now jumping to the future. We are in the 10s for the second to last song. So the reason why Fran and I are recording this episode was because this year Nicolas Sirkis released a song with Moby, of all people, a collaboration that I wouldn't have expected in a million years, with a song sounding, I think, very much of its time. Not a million miles away from, say, the Killers or the Jan Katanovs that we talk about, but I do like that song in a way that I don't like the others so much, even though it's not so much Indochine sound. So I pondered about putting that song on the album, but then I decided against it. I decided to go for a song that chimed a bit more with me. So I've gone for Tomboy 1, which is from 13, an album that came out in 2017, and I have to say an album that I really haven't listened to in a while. The lyrics genuinely move me to tears with this one. It's basically about a trans guy being taken away for conversion therapy, and listening to it in French with some English interspersed, because it's featuring a guy called Kiddy Smile, who is French, but for some reason sings in English. I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful song, musically as well, but it actually, more than many other songs, it's the lyrics that get it for me. And I think Indochine do that for me in a way that very few bands, whether French, English, or otherwise, do. I think sometimes their lyrics really actually make the song. This is one of them. And actually, to be very sincere for a moment, one of the songs from Paradise, Electra Star, I only found out today, I think, that it's a song that Nicolas dedicated to his departed brother. I had no idea it was about grief. I very much associate it with my mum, who, when Electra Star came on at the Switzerland gig, I got pushed to the ground by the mosh pit and she had to hold me up by my armpit to get me back up again. So knowing that it's about grief and, having my mum pass away very, very kind of tragically, it really kind of chimed with me. And I think there's something about them that works. But what I like as well, it's again, they're evolving with the times. They're getting a new guy in who complements the song perfectly, and there's kind of live clips of them playing this with him in the background that I think is really good. And it's not my favorite album of theirs, but there are some highlights like this one. And yeah, when we get into it, I want to talk about Kiddy Smile because he's a very interesting guy.
Yeah, because I put down here, like, it says DJ Kiddy Smile, and I couldn't hear DJ, so I wanted to know what he did. So you're saying he sings the English parts?
Yeah.
Okay, because I assumed that was the lead singer.
No, I think he does, because he also is on an Angèle song called Que du Love, where he's singing in English. So I don't know why he was kind of made famous by Beth Ditto. I had no idea about this. So Beth Ditto met him at a Jeremy Scott fashion show. So this is very mid noughties reference, and then pulled him onto the stage when they played Coachella. So I think she raised his profile, but he is very famous in France. Again, I didn't know this, for wearing a t-shirt to the Élysée, the president's house, where it says "Fille d'immigré noir et pédé," which is basically like son of an immigrant, black, and the F word, which obviously caused a stir in such a formal setting. So again, quite a character that, of course, Indochine are going to get involved with, because they're always trailblazing in that respect.
But yeah, again, in there, it's interesting how he sings about gender roles so often. It's quite unique for someone of us his age, because he's in his late 50s, early 60s now.
Yeah.
That's kind of you think that'd be a young person's game, Yeah, and it's interesting to hear the English segments, but I guess they wanted to spread the message. So by having in more than one language, more people can hear the song.
I hadn't thought about that, but that might be why, yeah.
It's more electronic than previously. It's got like an arena rock sound. It's got multi-tracked drums. I put down that this could be like a revamped Adamant sound with the double drums.
I don't mind it.
Although he's yodeling a bit in the chorus.
Okay, so you've reached your NS limit.
The yodel. But yeah, and I also quite like the synth outro as well. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's lovely with the synth. And I also enjoyed, I didn't know this, but I think there's like a second CD or like a bonus CD for this album. And this was 2017, so obviously just after Trump got elected. And they have a song called Trompe le Monde, which is a lovely play on words because Trompe le Monde is a Pixies album. But I think it literally translates as Fool the World. So lovely bit of French punning business. Now, for the risk of my final song on this list. Now, I really wanted to put this song first because it opens Dans ta Ria. It's Dans ta Ria from Dans ta Ria, 1999. But I didn't want to scare you off. I was like, I need to convince Fran that this is the kind of band that he'd like in all the eras. But I think this song is basically France's Bohemian Rhapsody with a harp and a tinkly piano. Maybe overselling it a bit much, but I love this song so much, but I hadn't heard it in a while. I have not stopped listening to the song since I've put it on the playlist. So how to describe it? It starts with this, I guess, like xylophone sound, these tinkly and then suddenly, these kind of more violent strings coming like duh, duh, and then he's saying, I can see you, and it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds more dramatic until it comes to this kind of string climax, and then it changes into an entirely different section with some kind of helicopter, somewhere between a synth and a percussion, an electric guitar with some themes from the first section, some melodies, and the strings are still in there, but it goes into a much more traditional kind of pop rock song. I think it's a triumph. I love it. Fully expecting you to hate it potentially. What did you think?
Are we talking Dance Centra?
It's called Dans ta Ria.
Dans ta Ria from 1999, and this was just after his brother's death, yeah? So, I mean, are the lyrics about his brother?
I have no idea. I've never paid attention to the lyrics in my life because I'm too busy just being like, whoa, the sounds, man.
Because again, this is in English and then a little bit in French in the middle. Yeah. But the fact that he's saying I can't see you now, I thought, is he referring to his brothers moving on?
Oh, okay. I hadn't even thought that deeply about it.
But yeah, so Gary Newman, he famously moved on to a different sound in the late 90s. And this is very similar. This brings out the dark side of the band, different electronica. They've got the dyed raven hair, the leather trousers. It's an epic. I'm surprised it's an opener. I would put it down as a closer, personally.
Oh, okay. So you agree with my placing?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a synth epic. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I like how it changes. I think this would also, if this was the first song, I wouldn't be scared off because this is my kind of music, and it's very, very different to what I would have expected from the first couple of songs. And what's the live version of this too? And I saw he played guitar on this as well. Oh,
see, I almost saw the live version, but when you love a song so much that you're like, oh god, I don't want it to be ruined by the live version.
No, vocally it sounds exactly the same as the CD.
Oh right, then I will check it out.
Yeah, check it out. I watched like a 2002 version of it, and it's a great way to end the playlist. I really enjoyed the song a lot.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Can you tell me what happens in the middle? Because the French section I couldn't find a translation.
So I'm looking at the lyrics now. And I don't think it's about his brother because the lyrics are, I'm going to translate it live for you. I wanted time to feel you close to me. Against these dead times, do you still love me? According to these lyrics, so I thought he was always saying I can or I can't. But I think he's saying both. According to this, he's saying I can't love you, I can love you, I can't love you, I can love you.
Okay.
Which in a way makes more sense, right? If he's confused about how he feels about this person, that makes more sense. But it's that thing of I was really hoping you would get this song and that you would like this song, that you would kind of enter into the spirit of it. But I'm like, it is also a bit mad, so I can understand why it would put some people off.
But I like mad.
Yeah.
So I think this is in the top 5 songs on the playlist.
Brilliant.
But so was this album not popular then?
No. This one was not popular, and let me tell you, have you looked at the album cover, Fran?
No, what is it?
The album cover is a woman drinking water from a tap that looks remarkably like a penis. Like, honestly, Google it while I tell you this story, because you will laugh, because the story I'm about to tell you is, in my family, as I said, when my mum and I saw Indochine, we were like, oh, this band's so great. We bought the greatest hits, and then we bought Paradise, and then kind of slowly, surely, we started buying albums. And I was in the car with my mom. She was giving a lift to my friend Sarah, and she was like, Barbara, guess what? Like, I bought Dans ta Here by Indochine, and like wielded the album cover in front of both our faces when we were like 14, 15. And I was literally like, my mom is showing me and my friend a picture of a woman metaphorically drinking some spunk. Like, Fran is mimicking the woman in the picture.
I might have to recreate this album cover.
I think if you recreate the album cover for an Indochine Facebook group, you will be very popular. But yeah, they have some really funny album covers, because the album cover for Wax is basically like a guy waxing a girl's leg. But the album cover for Paradise, it's a topless girl with the top button of her trousers undone and her hand is in it, but there's a cross across her chest. So it feels very like, I don't know, fuck you, Jesus kind of thing.
But again, I mean, just looking at the songs now, we've got so many English titles: Atomic Sky, Rose Song, She, Night, Astro Boy.
Astro Boy, yeah.
It's so weird how they have an English. Like, does that not piss off the fans having an English?
No, I think it's very normal. You know, English is the dominant worldwide language for now, and I remember Angèle, you know, the Belgian singer who I talk about a lot. She has a song called Loi de Murphy, right? Which is mostly in French, but there's this one bit where she goes, one time, then I give it up, two times. And when they were like, why are you singing in English? And she's like, can you imagine singing it in French? Une fois, deux fois. Like it just sounds wrong. So I think if you speak more than one language, sometimes you just go with what sounds better. Like, you know, Punishment Park. That's a great title for a song, even though it has fuck all to do with anything. And yeah, clearly he absorbs Anglo culture and Belgian culture as well. Like he's probably maybe not your average Frenchman in what he dips into. Well, I say him, you know, we've barely mentioned, you know, Dominique Nicolas and Ollie Dessat, who are the other kind of co-composers for a lot of it. But I think, yeah, they are a European French band.
I'd expect that from like Dutch band or Scandinavian, where English is kind of very popular. But I'm surprised with the French, because we always assume that the French are very much, you know, nationalistic about their language. So I'm surprised he's singing in English. So it's surprised me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm guessing for Dans ta Rien, you know, it was just like, I can see you. So I can see you, I can't see you. That's quite direct. In French, it would be je te vois pas. It sounds completely different. So maybe it just sounded better, and Astro Boy is better than, I don't know, Garçon de l'Espace or whatever it would be. I have no idea. But yeah, to wrap this up from my side, like, obviously Indochine are not underrated in the French-speaking world. I think they are surprisingly rated. Like, I would never expect a band talking about the things that they do, changing the sounds in the way that they have, to be as mainstream and famous as they are, but they are very mainstream and famous, and it makes me very happy. But they're just really not well known in the English-speaking world, and I think this is, yeah, the band the most underrated one. I'm like, I implore you, I know we have Americans and English people, like, go and fucking listen to this band, because, you know, whether you're into 80s stuff, 90s stuff, noughties, if you're into, again, your rock, your pop, your electro with some synths and some strings, like, this is a band for you. And okay, you might not like some yodeling, but, you know, you've heard the yodeling songs, you know, skip those out, go and listen to Paradise, go and listen to some of their songs, because I think, you know, you'll get a lot out of it, even if you don't speak the language.
Yeah, so said that they were the first band to play the Stade de France, you know, that's
I did not know that.
big stadiums in it. So yeah, I'm surprised how popular they were, but I never heard of them in the UK, because sometimes, you know, you just hear about other bands abroad just by the internet. You come across other bands. I'm surprised I've never seen them on my radar at all.
The only British people I know who've heard Indochine are people who have literally lived in France or like studied French. It really is like, you have to be into that to have heard of them, I found. And yeah, that guy from the Lancashire Times, who clearly must be some kind of francophile, because yeah, what a person to interview.
It was a very varied playlist. I think I preferred the 80s sound to the...
Then go and listen to 3.
So yeah, I think 3 might be a good starting point. But then again, I'm not dismissing their noughties track, because I quite enjoyed A Lady Boy. Who doesn't enjoy A Lady Boy?
Who doesn't?
So, but yeah, I think the 90s track Coma might have been the worst song on the here. But yeah,
I think you would agree with most of France then. I tried my best, guys.
But yeah, I would definitely check out Free because I think that the two songs in there are pretty awesome.
I think Dans Derrière is a good one to check out because actually no other songs sound like Dans Derrière. It is like very broadly prop rock, I would say. There's a song called Division de la Joie, which is Joy Division. It doesn't sound like Joy Division, but there's some urgent synths with the aggressive guitar and some horns. It's a risk, but they're very triumphant. I would recommend that as well.
Are there any other European bands who don't sing in English you'd recommend? Of a similar era?
I would recommend the Portuguese band Heróis do Mar. I will Heroisdomar. Heróis do Mar is it literally means heroes of the sea, and it's the opening line to the Portuguese national anthem. Oh. If you like Indochine's 80s sound, these guys Heróis do Mar have some truly fantastic 80s songs, especially Paixão and Supersticioso. I will put these all on the playlist, guys, so you can go and listen to it because they're, you know, the 80s that I know is a very Anglo 80s, right? I don't know much Portuguese music, I don't know much French music or other, maybe, you know, a bit of German, a bit of trio, and a bit of non of Ballon and Kraftwerk. That's the only one that I can think of, but you know, they don't have a career spanning anything like Indochine. What I would say is, listeners, especially kind of people who know Indochine, get in touch, tell us what other bands sound like this, because I, for one, would very much like to know, and I think Fran, you too.
Yeah, there must have been more than just one band in France doing this kind of music, so it'd be interesting to hear what else is out there, to be fair. Yeah, I would say that underrated because, I mean, I'd fucking have heard them before, and I like at least, 7 or 8 songs of this 10 tracks I've heard, so yeah, definitely I would check out that the 80s music, and then, you know, I'd check out the Placebo song as well with, definitely.
Pink Water, yeah, that's a bit more ballady as well, but I still enjoy it. Fantastic. I have done mon job.
Yeah, you have the French people will be very happy.
But yeah, okay, Fran, do you have anything you'd like to finish off with?
I said it before, if you are listening and you're an English speaker, there's 200 countries out there making amazing music. It's a risk, it's scary, but you can discover some great music. So maybe, you know, try listening to some non-English language music, because I've discovered, you know, numerous bands that I adore.
I wholeheartedly agree, and you know, I would say, if you want to take that plunge, you know, it doesn't have to be French. Pick a language that you like, because there is something quite satisfying. I think sometimes English speakers are just put off by like, oh, it's a foreign language and I don't understand. It is quite satisfying when you're learning a language to kind of listen to music, and then, you know, you go away and then you come back on it and you understand more. It feels like a little puzzle. You know, Stromae is one of the biggest French singers at the moment, and his lyrics are fucking deep, man. Yo. And it is such it feels like such a treat and a privilege to be able to speak enough French to understand most of it. But it's like, actually, with Stromae, you see a lot of people who are actually not French, and they're getting that joy out of it. So I agree with Fran, don't be put off. And if there's a language that you like, whether it's Korean or Italian or Swahili, whatever it is, I think a really good way to get into that kind of music is find a genre that you like, find a song that you like, find a Spotify playlist, because there will be one there. You know, it's a bit like porn, there's one for everything, and just put it on and watch it go, because you get a lot out of it musically, and then you can get into the lyrics and it's fun, and who knows, you might discover your own version of a song about pegging.
And that's what we all want, really,
in life.
To be fair.
We all want some pegging. We all want to be someone's king or queen. That's what the song was saying. So find your local royal today.
Yeah, and guys, get pegged.
Get pegged. Get out there. Get pegged. That's the slogan.
That's how merchandise.
For today.
Get pegged.
Get out. Get pegged. Bye, Fran.
Au revoir.
So I think that's our first episode that's kind of finished with a manifesto at the end. I couldn't agree more with Fran. I think it's really nice to go and discover different types of music from around the world because you don't know what you're missing out on. And I think, obviously, if you're an English speaker, you're lucky because there's so many bands in the UK, the US, Australia, etc. that are singing in your language. But there is something very special about discovering a band singing in another language and, you know, having the curiosity to go and check out the lyrics and see if you understand them. So I hope you discover a new non-English speaking band today. And maybe it's Indochine, maybe it's someone else. Let us know if you do. If you've got any favourite bands not singing in English, we'd definitely love to hear about it. And you can let us know on @OUMusicPod on Twitter, @OverUnderatedMusicPodcast on Instagram. Or you can email us at overunderatedmusicpod at gmail.com. And bonsoir, au revoir, à la prochaine. Bisous.